Call the roll, please.
Mr. Fury?
Here.
Mr. Barr?
Here.
Mrs. Walker?
Present.
Mr. Bellin?
Here.
Mr. Post?
Here.
Mrs. Labby?
Here.
Mr. Scafidi?
Okay. Do we have any presentations this evening?
There are none.
Thank you. Do we have any audience participation?
There is none.
Okay. Then the pending legislation, first ordinance is 1522. Would you like to take that? It's
Sure. This is the permanent appropriations for 2022. It is on its third and final reading tonight, and we will need to have it on emergency passed.
Are there any questions regarding 1522?
No, I'd just like to thank Sarah and everybody that came in to present to us over the last several weeks. Thank you very much for all that work. It's very much appreciated.
All right. Okay, the next piece of legislation is Ordinance 3022. This is the ordinance to update the boards and commissions list and remove the chart. I discussed this a few weeks ago. It stands on its first reading. Are there any questions?
Yeah, unless I'm looking at the wrong one. So it says standing committees shall be, just for clarification, those are all crossed off, I saw, right? Under 1103 committees. So right at the beginning of 3022, all those, it says the standing committees of council shall be, and then all of those are crossed off, right? Why are those crossed off? Should those be crossed off?
Actually, I don't think that that's correct. We'll probably have to take a look at that. But we have two more readings on this before we enact it.
Yeah.
Mr. Vazana, do you want to touch on that one, please?
I just didn't know why they were crossed off because those,
Some of those are still available.
right.
Well, those, so 11103E, the standing committees, those are the committees of the council. So we just had the finance committee of the council. That's not
Oh, I see what you're doing.
struck.
Oh, you're saying,
So,
You got to go to the next
yeah,
page.
so then if you go to the next page.
well, I saw that on the next
Yes.
page.
Okay.
So then if you go to the next page under 11105, the balance of the ones that were struck out of 11103 have been moved over to 11105 because those are the cities, boards, and commissions that,
Are not charter-based.
yeah, that are, well, some of them might be in the charter, but they're liaison appointee.
They're not
based.
council committees.
Yeah, they're not committees made up of council
Yeah.
members.
Of solely council.
Exactly, yeah.
Like,
So it
whether it's
was,
finance, public works, public safety, those are only council members.
that's
Where
correct.
the other one, they're residents over, where a council person oversees it and.
That's
and
correct,
attends.
yeah, where you have a liaison
Okay,
and then.
that makes sense. It's just-
And just as a little bit of history on this, when, if you may remember, Councilmember Fury had asked if we take a look of removing, this is the final piece here, Council, where you see the table with the groups. When I went in to make that change, I noticed that we needed to clean up here that standing committee of council versus city boards and commissions and council appointees / liaisons.
Okay,
So we're doing all of that in this one ordinance here.
that makes sense. It's just,
Yeah, no, I was,
what am I missing here?
I was planning on making a couple remarks tonight or at the second reading, depending on when we discussed it. So thanks for
Now
asking.
we've discussed it.
Yeah.
All right, great. Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
All right, next would be Resolution 2022, excuse me. And this is to appoint a council member and 2 resident members to the Tax Incentive Review Committee. You know, we probably need to do this on an emergency because we have a meeting Thursday. And so I'm going to ask that this be passed on an emergency. The reason being, we need them to be appointed in 2 days for a meeting at 6 o'clock on Thursday. And the Tax Incentive Review Board is the board that reviews the top programs and CRA programs with the finance director of the county, school boards there, so that we can see that the people that got abatements for either property tax or income tax are meeting the commitment that they made for us to give them that discount. So, are there any questions? The members are Sheila Williams and Angelo Garcia Parro for the residents, and I am the council member being appointed. Okay.
What's the term limit?
Garcia Polo? Garcia Polo. It's Italian. I don't do that very well.
What's the term limit?
I'm not sure. Let me, did you?
I want to say.
I don't have the copy up in front of me. I think it's 2 years.
Yeah, I want to say it's 2 years. I don't know that it's in the resolution.
I will look it up in between.
Yeah.
Or can you guys check that?
We can check the revised code. This one is,
I think it's 2.
yeah.
Yeah, this is a revised code appointment. It's not an appointment that comes out of the
Charter.
local ordinance, but I do believe it's a 2-year appointment.
Okay. Moving on, the next piece of legislation is Ordinance 32, 2022. This is an ordinance to amend the council rules to include for pay for the Jedi Commission. So this is our salary ordinance, and it simply adds the Jedi Commission on there to be paid at rate as the other commissions, $25 for a member, $35 for a chair for the regularly scheduled meetings. Are there any questions?
No.
Okay. Next on the agenda would be Ordinance 33, 2022. And this is an ordinance that amends money for our grant applications. It's going to bring $44,000 in that we're putting in to reimburse for overtime for 2020 and 2021. As well as this would allow us to do a $500 hazardous payment for those eligible in police and dispatch. And this is also talks about the grant that Lieutenant Donato was awarded for $16,220 for the camera systems that were talked about earlier in the Finance Committee. So this is basically just a housekeeping ordinance to move some money around within the city. There's no emergency on it because I don't think that it's critical that we do these, and it's not an emergency, so we're going to read this a few times, unless that's an issue for you, Sarah.
I apologize, I was getting the audience participation.
Sarah, you've got some money being moved around in 33, 2022.
If it's for the police grants, I do need that on emergency.
Okay, so we would have to add the standard emergency clause and get that done, because right now we'd read this as a first reading, I believe. First?
It's written as an emergency in the ordinance section.
I apologize, I see that now.
Sorry about that.
Okay?
In the, I'm sorry, keep going, sorry. I'll let you say it in your comments.
No, go ahead.
It says in
I'm
the.
going fast, we're 7
Yeah, no.
minutes into this.
In the memo on the last there, it says that the camera system is a total cost of $22,736.
Sure, but we're taking in grant money for $16,000, and then we're probably going to pay the difference. It's usually how we do that.
Yes, there's a city portion to that one. The other grant actually offsets the city portion of that grant
Okay.
because we're getting a reimbursement for overtime we've already spent.
Okay, I just thought
So at the end of the day, it's a net positive to the budget.
Gotcha. Okay, because I thought the cameras we said in the last meeting were in the finance were $32,000, and unless they're different cameras.
Different cameras.
Thank you.
That flock system.
Say no more.
That was a capital purchase. This is different cameras.
Thank you. It's just
These are body
close in
cameras.
price.
Yeah,
Camera
it's
system.
In-car,
Body armor.
and I believe some body cams as well.
Gotcha. Okay, thank you.
No problem.
All right, the next item is Resolution 34, 2022. It's a resolution to hire an EnviroScience to perform an environmental service for ODOT for the Ravenna, Shepherd, and Broadway Richmond intersection. The base amount is $14,312. Might be some potentials for some alternatives, around 6,000 plus, and you need an archaeology study as well. So this is a joint project between the three entities there.
Yeah, Macedonia, Glen Willow. This is a project that's been going on for years. This is the main intersection where the communities come together on Ravenna Road.
Are there any questions? Okay, Ordinance 35, 2022 is an ordinance to award the bid to JD Striping for the 2022 roadway striping program. The amount is $61,848, and we need this on an emergency. This is, the original bid on striping was high, so we cut it down a little bit.
Right, so we're not doing our full road striping program. This is just long line striping this year because the bids came in so high. So we just scaled it back for this year. Hopefully they'll, turn out normal next year.
It would never be worth us doing our own striping, is that correct?
No.
Okay, I just didn't know what's involved.
Yeah, it's a lot involved.
I just didn't know.
Good thing Chris isn't in here. He would.
So are there any more questions on 35,
Just a question.
2022? Thank you. Then we're going to move to
Valid question.
ordinance 36, 2022. This is ordinances to award the bid of Northeast Ohio trenching services for the 2022 Cannon Sewer Project. The amount is $187,800. This will also be on an emergency because we want to dig the ditch and get it done as soon as possible.
A storm sewer project on Cannon Road. So it's another one we've been talking about for a couple of years. But it's going to be active this year.
And lastly, we're going to discuss ordinance 37, 2022. This ordinance would adopt the 2021 comprehensive plan as approved by the Planning Commission at their January 21st meeting. This ordinance will be read 3 times. This is our first reading or second reading on this? First. Okay, are there any questions on the comprehensive plan? Go ahead.
I do have a question. I've had the opportunity to read it several times now, and I see now that a lot of our Old Mill community is here, and I've read it because a situation has come to light through these people. I walk the property, and they've been in front of planning. So there is just one section that I have a question on, and I know a lot of people here have worked on the comprehensive plan, and it's very well written. It's very extensive. I know a lot of work was put into it. So it says on page 54, if progress is made, responsibilities must be assigned and accountability established. It will be necessary to establish the process, procedures, and funding necessary to promote sustainability practices to be executed by city departments. Right now, like, who's the person we go to for this? Because it seems like we want to all be on the same page. Am I correct in saying that? So right now, it kind of feels like a disconnect to me. Again, I'm new. So who's accountable now? Like, who do we go to help us to get to this point?
So typically, our planning and economic development department, so Larry has always spearheaded a lot of our projects. They're in coordination with our service department, depending on the project or the grants that we may receive. I mean, our NOPEC grants every year are used for energy-based projects. But basically the overall sustainability measures of the city are more department-wide. But again, this is kind of us setting a guideline for us to then start being more actively engaged in pursuing sustainability goals.
I was wondering if there was an idea of what it would look like. Would there be a committee? Would there be a department head? Would there be like just, or you're saying just individual departments being like kind of in charge of their own?
So comprehensive plan is like a broad guideline of things you may want to do in the future.
Sure.
Based on, and this program is based off sustainability. So it talks a lot about recycling, talks about water quality, talks about things that we can do as a city to have it documented that we are looking to embrace sustainability because we're kind of out of our building cycle. I mean, we're almost maxed out. And now that we're already here and there's not going to be significant more construction like we did 30 years ago when we built 4,000 houses, that this is a guide, but it's also a tool that you use to apply for grants for these things. So there's trail connects in here and other water projects that we would use this as an example that we've already done these studies and put this in place that we can use it to again as an addition to our grant applications.
Right.
So there isn't somebody that's going to be an office of the comprehensive
Well, I didn't
plan.
know because I was trying to use it as a tool myself. Just
So-
to get an idea of where we should be and specifically on water quality. And
Okay.
And, you know, I was just wondering what they had in mind for, you know, because it says in the future, if it's necessary, you know, they'll establish process, procedures, and funding. So it's just kind of wondering what the idea for that was. Was there discussion, or maybe there wasn't, or maybe that's something for the future, like it says, in the future.
Yeah, I think as things arise or issues arise, I mean, again, this is the first reading on the adoption of the plan. So as we move forward into, you know, this is a 5-year typically plan, you know, we look at this every 5 years. So again, something that, again, I think we're going to consider working towards, and whatever those goals may be that we've established in there. And again, it could be department-wide, or could be project-based, could be committee-based. But
Okay, thank you.
Are there any other questions on the, on 37-2022? All right, is there any miscellaneous?
Mr. Curie? We did have some residents sign up to speak. I know it was after the start of the meeting. Would you allow them to speak now, or?
Sure. Do they want to speak at the caucus meeting or at the council meeting? Because sometimes people get confused on which list they're signing up for.
They signed up under the caucus. So,
Okay. What's the first name?
I have Lynn Clark, Steve Hummel.
Mr.
Chris,
Clark,
and
did you
I'm
want to
sorry.
speak at the council meeting, or you want to speak now?
I don't understand the difference.
Well, the
I get the opportunity to talk to you all.
Come on up then.
All right.
All right.
Because the message is going to be the same, and I know you don't want to hear me twice.
I've heard you already. I'd be happy to hear you again. So,
Okay. So,
first, before we start, Mr. Clark, can you state
Yes.
your name and address for the record?
yeah, Lynn Clark, 2485 Old Mill Road.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. So, thank you for letting me speak and not totally understanding your procedures, and I appreciate
Well, you
it.
get 5 minutes, and we can respond to you in this process.
Oh, excellent,
So-
even better. So I've gone through the plan and just had some observations that I think might help improve that plan. So it's got some good visions. This is where we'd like the city to go. And it's all about, hey, how do we get a hold of these greenhouse gases? How do we conserve the ecological factors that we've got here, including the flora, the fauna, the endangered species, embrace green buildings, some really good stuff. But what I don't see is the details for how do we get there. So just a couple of suggestions. First thing, hey, we got to have some good baseline measurements. Like anything else, you start and you have to understand, where are we now? And then you start doing measurements to see how you're going to progress towards that goal. And get that into a dashboard, get it up, get it obvious, because we've got some different ideas about how we can achieve that. But if we don't have the very specific metrics, the KPIs that I know a lot of the departments have worked on over the last few years, we'll never get there. So, get those goals and objectives that are buried like almost on the last page of the report. Get them up front. This is what we're going to do in terms of CO2 capture. This is what we're going to do in terms of reclaiming wetlands. This is what we're going to do in front of all of those things that these reports and the previous one said was important. Number two, got to have a project plan. We got a bunch of ideas, but it doesn't have that time, task, and resource to show here's how it's going to be executed. Working on a project plan, it's what's going to get done, who's going to do it, when's it going to get done, what's the deliverable that we get out at the end of that task. Parts of the report included talking about the emissions associated with the wastewater treatment plant, other parts didn't. That's the biggest sucker of power that we got in the whole city from just my experience with wastewater treatment plants over the years. And again, have one consolidated scorecard, and you can break it out, but when people say, how are we doing on the overall plan, have it in one place. Next idea, everything in the city should be included. we talk about, here's how we want to develop, here's how we want to deal with different bits and pieces of land, but to say this is what the city's going to do relative to everything else going on in the city, I don't think is appropriate. I think we're missing an opportunity to live up to the dreams, the platitudes, the visions that we've got in the plan. Number 5, new developments should be discouraged until we've filled up all the stuff that we've currently got. From an environmental standpoint, from a sustainability standpoint, it doesn't make sense. Let's go build more and more and more when we've got vacancy and help wanted signs all over the community. Number 6, when new developments occur, follow the best practices available, and that's, I'm sure you've heard of it, the leadership, engineering, and environmental design standards. And it's all about how can we build these buildings so that they're very efficient. And cost studies have shown that you can build a compliant building whose long-term cost of ownership and operation is very competitive with building a traditional building. And again, an opportunity the city shouldn't pass up. I'm out of time.
You have 1 minute.
I'll talk real fast. Hey, there's a couple of different things going on that out there on Old Mill Road, we've got an opportunity to display. How are we going to control these riparian zones? Where can we demonstrate that we're going to have endangered species preserved? And maybe even throw in a little recreation area south of I-480. And recognizing that I'm out of time and I don't want Shannon getting mad at me, I may have a few other comments come back later, but thank you for your time.
Thank you, Mr. Clark.
Thank you.
Shannon, who's next?
Next, we have Steve Hummel.
I'll wait till the council meeting.
Okay. Next, we have Chris and, is it Graffito?
I'm okay right now.
You're okay?
Yeah.
And Don Sikowski? All right, that's all then.
Okay. So, is there any miscellaneous? Okay. At this time, I'm going to adjourn the caucus meeting for the city of Twinsburg. Regular council meeting will start at 7:30. If you have not already signed up and would like to address council, there should be a sign-up sheet, or will be a sign-up sheet there that you can speak to us. And thank you for your time.